What's going on, everybody? My name is Jake. Welcome to The Haunted Beard. It is all horror and thriller movie content here on my channel. So if this is your first time checking out one of my videos, welcome. Thank you for joining me. If you are a normal around here, welcome back. Thanks for joining me again. Today, I want to give you my review for Sleep. This is a newly released South Korean mystery thriller that tells the story of a young, expectant wife who must figure out how to stop her husband's nightmarish sleepwalking habits before he harms himself or his family. And this is a film that I would say overall is pretty good, but not great. This is actually the feature film debut from the director, Johnny Yu, and he actually served as the assistant director on a few of Bong Joon-ho's films. And so this guy knows what he's doing. He definitely has some talent. This is, for a feature film debut, this is a good effort for sure. I'm definitely looking forward to seeing what he does. It just doesn't quite kind of hit those upper levels where I would give it like a super strong recommendation. Now, as I said, this is a mystery thriller. It's also a horror film, but it's a little bit lighter on the horror, and it's also a bit of a dark comedy, as some of the situations that the husband finds himself in, or rather, the situations that the wife finds the husband in as he's sleepwalking, can sometimes feel a little comedic, as they're just kind of weird and kind of gross and bizarre. And so there is kind of this darkly comedic element to the film. However, as the movie progresses, things get more serious and a little darker and kind of leaves that comedic element behind. But I think the director does a pretty good job, at least in that first third to first half, kind of weaving in some of the comedic tone. And sometimes that's a hard balance, you know, when you've got horror thriller with comedy. Typically, horror comedies for me are usually more miss than hit, but I think he does a pretty good job kind of weaving in some of the comedy here. So I think he does a pretty good job handling the tone. And I also think he does a good job with just the mood and the feeling of the film as well, as this is a movie that gives you kind of those feeling helpless kind of vibes, where you're put in this situation, specifically the wife, as she's trying to help her husband deal with this illness or sickness or whatever it is. That's part of the mystery. They don't really know what's going on, but just that helpless feeling. And also the feeling of your loved one, your spouse, being a potential threat, only they don't really have any control over it because it's all happening when they're sleeping. And so I like that sensation of helplessness. I like that dynamic of the spouse, your loved one, being the major threat and not knowing how to handle it and navigate it. So I enjoyed that aspect of the film. Where my major complaint with the movie has to do, I guess, largely with the overall story and how it all unfolds, because this is a film that I felt like it didn't have enough mystery or enough unpredictability to it to really kind of reach that upper level of a movie and to keep me fully engaged throughout. And so most of the film plays out in a pretty standard, I would say almost straightforward way, kind of how you would expect this type of story to unfold, where it starts off, you know, he goes into the fridge at night and starts eating raw eggs and raw steak and stuff like that. And it's like, okay, that's kind of bizarre. But then you know that she's pregnant and eventually going to give birth to the child. And then it's like, well, we kind of know where this is headed. Obviously, there's going to be a major concern for the safety of the child. And there's not too many twists and turns along the way. And so while you get some tense moments, it doesn't have enough of that shock value, I guess, or unpredictability to it to really, again, kind of elevate this thing to the next level. And so I felt like for the first hour, it's pretty one note and straightforward, and there's really not enough story there to warrant an hour's worth. It's just kind of stretched a little too thin. However, I do think the film makes a good decision in terms of how it executes the final act. And I did like the note that the film ended on. They bring in some ambiguity in the third act, which I think helps. And the film does a pretty good job kind of ratcheting up the tension and the mystery of it during the climactic scene, which I found actually pretty satisfying. And so overall, like I said, this is a pretty good film, definitely for a directorial debut. This is nothing to be ashamed about. I would still recommend this. I wouldn't give it a strong recommend. It's not going to end up on like my top 10 of the year or anything, but overall, I still enjoyed myself. It's a pretty good film. It's not a great film. So those are my thoughts. For a final grade on Sleep, I'm going to be somewhere between like a 6.5, maybe a 7, kind of somewhere right in there. So yeah, those are my thoughts. Hit me up down below like always. Would love to hear from you guys. Always appreciate hearing your opinions on movies. So thank you so much for watching. Greatly appreciate it. If you got anything out of this video, go ahead and do me a favor and do not click that subscribe button unless you want to be haunted by the beard.